adhere to within Washington State. And to start with that is I want to talk to you about the mission for L&I. So we have the mission of keeping Washington safe and working. We protect the health and safety of workers. We also provide medical care and financial help for injured workers. We protect their wage and hour rights. And then we're also in charge of protecting the public from unsafe work environments. These are some of the programs that we have within the agency. And a lot of times they see us as a giant insurance company. But the reality is that there's many other programs that we administer. For example, who here knew that we do contractor registration or that we inspect taco trucks, food trucks? Some of you might know that, and some of you that might be new information. So we do. We have our reach is further more than just workers' comp. And on screen, you'll see some of the programs we administer, but there's more as well. And to begin today, I'm going to talk about your workers' comp requirement when you decide to hire employees, or if you decide to have coverage for yourself as the owner. So first off, well, what are the benefits? Why do you need this, or why should I have this, right? That's your question right now. So the benefits for the person that's injured is that they'll receive medical treatment. If they are not able to work, they'll receive wage replacement. And if they are now having a disability due to the injury, well, they will receive partial, if they have a partial or permanent disability, they will receive wage replacement for that as well. For you as an employer, this is very important for you to know, is that it provides a liability protection, meaning that the person that just got injured can't come back and sue you for being injured while working for you. So that's a huge plus. Also, this coverage covers all medical expenses. So now you won't be in charge of having to pay all those medical bills, which we know can be very costly. So this insurance covers all the medical expenses, and it's not something that's coming out of your pocket that's now going to cause an impact financially to your business. So those are the key benefits. And who is considered your covered worker? This is one of the questions we often get in our office. People don't know what really is encompassed in being a covered worker or an employee. And this always includes your regular employees, your temporary employees, or your casual laborers. And what I want you to know here too as well is that it also includes your family members and minors. It's easy for us to think that, well, it's my child, it's my spouse, it's my parent, they're not my employee, they're just helping out. But the reality is that if this person or this individual is not listed as an owner of the business, from the view of the state, that's already your employee, and it needs to be a covered worker. So it's really important to remember that, just to avoid any issues down the road. This coverage is not required for the business owners. It's elective, but if you choose to have it, you can consider it. The benefits of it is that it's way less expensive than your medical insurance, your private medical insurance. And a lot of times, if you get injured while working, even though you're the owner and you go to the doctor, sometimes your private medical insurance won't cover an injury if they know it was work related. So it's something good to look into if it's something you want to have, just to avoid any costs down the road. And it might also include a volunteer or an independent contractor. And an independent contractor is not as easy as just hiring someone and saying, I'm going to pay you with a 1099. You actually have to have them pass a 6-part test, as you see on the slide. And what this means is that they have to be able to answer yes to all these questions. For example, is this person free of your direction and control? Do they have their own business, meaning they have their UBI, all their licenses? Do they have their own clients? Do they have their own records? Do they pay their own taxes? Are they in business for themselves? So they truly have to be able to answer yes to all these questions to truly be an independent contractor. So if you're in a position where you need to hire someone, I would highly recommend that you look into the Hiring Independent Contractors Guide. to know if this is truly an independent contractor or your employee to avoid any issues in the future. Or if you have questions specifically about this and you're kind of unsure whether or not this is an independent contractor, you can also contact us at the Small Business Office, and we can get you in contact with the right team that can help you determine this. And for those of you in the state of Washington that travel outside of the state to perform work on a temporary basis, we have an agreement, a reciprocal agreement with all the states highlighted in yellow you see right now. And what this means is if you take an employee to work in one of these states temporarily, your coverage for workers' comp in Washington state will cover there as well. So that's the nice advantage of this. It's common, especially for businesses that go down into the Portland, Oregon area or the Idaho, but obviously our reach is further than that. So if you have a question about this coverage or if you don't know if it applies, you can contact the employer hotline. The number is on screen, and they can help you determine if this coverage covers the state you're planning to go and for the work that your employee will be doing. So that's a nice perk of this coverage. But how do I know what I'm going to pay, right? You're probably thinking that right now. So it's not one case fits all. It is all based on the base rate and the experience factor. So that is how we calculate what each business is going to pay. And your base rate is the premium for each risk classification, meaning the exposure to a risk for that specific job. Then your experience factor, look at this like kind of like your insurance, your auto insurance, where if you have a car accident, obviously your insurance is going to go higher, right? But if you don't, then it stays low. Sometimes you're even able to get incentives for having it low. Well, in this case, it's having it low saves you money. So this is how what you pay for workers' comp is determined. And to illustrate it, I have a couple different risk class rates here. And so you can see that they vary from type of business to industry. And it's all based, like I said, on the risk that the employee will have while working. So if you look at framing, that is actually highly expensive, and it's because there's a higher risk of injury. So for framing, a business would have to pay $4.56 per hour worked for each employee. So that gets expensive pretty quickly. For accounting, or someone that works in like an office setting as a secretary, reception, obviously their exposure to a risk is way lower. And so the rate there is 23 cents. So you can see the difference based on the industry and then the risk that the employee has. And to illustrate how important your experience factor is, I have this image here. So these are two businesses. They do the same exact thing. One is a new business and one's the business that's already been established. Something I want to highlight is that every business always starts with the one experience factor. And if you have claims that occur while you're in business, these impact that experience factor. So clearly, the business risky construction has had a claim or a few claims. Now their experience factor is 1.5. Essentially, both businesses have the same risk class rate because the risk is the same for each business. It's the same base rate, but the experience factor is what's driving that risk class rate higher for risky construction. It's a difference of $2.98. And the reporting of a year, the difference that these businesses are paying is $57,000. So this is why it's really important to try to keep your experience factor down to keep a safe work environment because it saves you money in the long run. Also, another thing you have to know is if you're thinking about buying a business, an existing business, or you're thinking about merging it with a business, you have to know that if there's a high experience rating, this can follow you as a new owner. It doesn't mean that you're a total different individual. If it's already an established business and there's already a high experience rating, there might even be past due taxes. This will follow you. And due to confidentiality laws, we can't, as an L&I, cannot give you the history for an experience factor or claims, but you can go and ask the owner that's selling to you or that's asking you to merge to provide that information to you. So this is really important to know that it's not just as easy as, oh, I'm going to buy it and that's it. You have to do a little bit more research because this can impact you in the long run and also cost you a lot of money. And we do have a tool on our public website. It's called the Verify tool, and this is public to anyone. In this tool, you can look up risk classifications assigned to each business. You can look up the contact information for the account manager. Sometimes businesses that contract with someone else, they'll ask, oh, can you provide me a certificate of coverage? Meaning that they just want to see something that shows that you have coverage, you have workers' comp. You can also download that information from this Verify tool. What you'll do is you'll enter here, you'll enter either business name or UBI, and with that information, the information will populate if you have a workers' comp account. You'll be able to see all of that. And also, if you want to see someone's past experience factor, you can actually see the experience factor. So this comes in play if you're thinking about buying a business that's already existing. You can go in there and kind of see what the history has been for the experience factor. Like I said, this is a tool that not a lot of people know of, but it's a useful tool and it's open to the public. And I recommend that you take a look and get familiar with it, so because you never know when you might need it. And one of the requirements that you have to have for all businesses by law is having good record keeping. And this is your personnel, employment records, financial records. And if you ever hire an independent contractor, you have to have all that information in record. This is because not only is it required by law, but let's just say in the unfortunate event that there's an audit, you're already prepared because that's exactly what the auditor is going to ask you. They're going to say, okay, can you please provide me your records for the past 3 years? So it's better to be proactive and be ready to just avoid any issues down the road. And the other thing you have to know is when you have workers' comp and you have your employees, you also need to know how to calculate the hours worked. So for your hourly or piece workers, it's going to be the actual hours worked. And it doesn't include vacation, sick, or holiday, but it does include overtime. For salary or commission workers, there's two methods that you can utilize. You can do the actual hours, or you can do the assumed hours. You can only choose one, though. You can't kind of decide on one month, one quarter, and one the other. You have to decide on one. But this is how you're going to calculate the hours worked for each employee. And this is the quantity that you're going to have to report once you come up to your quarterly reports. It's also really important that you have daily time records. And this is really important, especially if your business has different duties that employees will be doing. For example, here on screen, we have a sheet that has painting. So employees are doing painting indoors some days and then painting exteriors other days. And so it's really important to know what hours were worked where, because this will be important when you do your quarterly report. Sometimes the rates, even if it's painting, when it goes from indoor to outdoor, it might change slightly because of the risk associated, as I described earlier. So it's good to know exactly how many hours you have to report because it can save you money. And a little later on, I'll also mention another reason why it's important when it comes to injury claims while at work. Your quarterly reports are due every quarter. On screen, you have the dates. We like to let businesses know what these dates are, especially because a lot of times many of you have accountants that do this for you, but you're not fully aware of when they're due. And sometimes you might see something from the bank saying, oh, a payment to L&I was just made for this amount. And we get a lot of calls from people that say, I just had this deduction and I don't know what it's for. And so once we look in further, then we determine that it was because they filed on their behalf and now they submitted payment. So it's really important to get familiar with these dates as a business owner. And also so you remember to double check to make sure that the quarterly report was filed just to avoid any issues. Where do you file? We file online here on our public website. It's actually super quick. It takes like maybe 5 minutes at the most. You need to have your UBI number, your business L&I account ID number, and then the amount of hours you need to report. And you enter that into our system super quick. it automatically calculates the amount you have to pay, and then you're done. We like to also let employers know in the odd case that they want to file themselves. Like I said, some of them have accountants, and that's fine too. But we also like to let you know where you're able to do this yourself too. And this is really important here. Please file on time, even if there's no hours to report, because you want to avoid any collection action or estimated premiums. What this means is they will contact you, L&I will contact you if you haven't filed your report, and if after a certain amount of attempts they're not able to communicate with you or you haven't filed, there is a chance that they can do an estimated premium, and because it's an estimate, it's typically higher than what you would have had reported. And after a certain amount of time, if you don't reply to that estimated premium, that notification you receive, you are subject to paying that full amount. So filing on time is really important because it saves you money and a surprise later down the future. The payment is due in full, but partial payments are also accepted. And if for whatever reason you are not able to pay in full, we do have payment plans available. We have the employer assistance program that's available to you, and you can contact them via email or via phone and let them know your situation. Let them know that you are filing, but you don't have the capability to pay in full, and they will work with you. They will work to set up a payment agreement, and they can give you the details of how that would work. So it's better to be in communication. It's better to file than to just ignore it because, like I said, you do not want to have an estimated premium or additional interest or penalties later down the road. And why did I mention the importance of workers' comp if you have employees? Well, because there could be an audit. And I know that audits sound very scary. And during these audits, the purpose is to promote the integrity of the industrial insurance system. And here, they make adjustments if they need to. If you misreported for some reason, they will audit your information and make any corrections. So this is why it's so important, like I mentioned earlier, to have your records for 3 years, because once they make a determination, they will provide you that information. You have the right as a business owner to a reconsideration or an appeal. Always know that you have the right to appeal, and if you have the proof, if you have the records, it would help you in the appeal process if it's something that you don't agree with. So this is why it's so important that if you do have employees, you have workers' comp, you cover them, because it's going to help you avoid an audit. And in the event you do have one, you have the proof to show that you had this account, that you had the coverage, and that you have your information on record. And so then what happens when someone gets injured and they already have workers' comp? Well, the person goes to the doctor fills out a form and then sends it to L&I. Then L&I will receive it, and then they will send the employer, the business owner, a form that they have to fill out. This is the employer report of accident. This is really important, and it's important that you know that when you receive this form, this is your opportunity to fill out and state what occurred in the injury. Do you recall I mentioned earlier about the designation of hours and the risk rates and to have good record keeping? This is important too, because you can compare what's on the injury claim with your personal records to see if this person was working the day that they were injured and if they were working in the work that you had put down for that day. So this is really important. Because it's your opportunity to give your version of the facts as well. And all of that is considered when making a claim determination. Also, it's important that you stay connected. A lot of business owners don't know that you have the right to be able to communicate with the claims manager, with the provider, and you also have access to the claims file, medical file for that claim injury. And you can ask any questions, you can contact them. So it's important that you know this information, because sometimes we get calls where people don't even know what's going on with the claim and they didn't know that they had access to this information. So you have access to this information too. And if you have someone that's injured and they can't go back to work, or they have a restriction and now they can only do modified duty, we do have programs available to help you. These programs, if you have someone that needs light duty work, they can help you find a light duty job. If you want to keep a person working on light duty work, we have the Stay at Work program that reimburses you with incentives to help this person come back to work. So it actually benefits you financially. And then if you hire someone that's considered a preferred worker, meaning that this person already has permanent medical restrictions, the agency will give you incentives if you hire a certified preferred worker. So these are programs available to you in the event that you have someone that's injured and you need assistance. The other thing I wanted to mention too is that an injured worker has 1 year from the date of injury to file a claim. So a lot of businesses don't know that, and it's really important to know that because a lot of times some of these people are no longer employed with you. They worked with you temporarily and they moved on to something else, right? And then later down the road, you get a claim injury form and you're like, well, what is this for? This person hasn't worked here. It's because they have 1 year from the date of injury to file. So always know that. And this is why it's also important to have good records to verify with what's on the injury claim. So before I move forward to your requirements for safety and health when you have employees, are there any questions you have while on top of mind? Okay, I don't see any, so I'm going to move forward. If you think of any, please put them in the chat or we can cover them at the end of the presentation. So as an employer, you also have requirements for workplace safety and health that you have to fulfill with. And these requirements are very important. For example, take a look at this image. What do you see that's wrong in this image? I hope you say a lot of things because there is. Clearly, they don't have good workplace safety practices, and this could just be an opportunity for more than one person to get injured. So this is why we have a division of safety and health within L&I, because we want to make sure that the employees are safe. And WSHA is the Washington Industrial Safety and Health Act, who gives L&I the following responsibilities. So we have to ensure that every business develops safety and health rules, that we offer training, that we provide one-on-one site consultation, that we enforce rules, and that we investigate any complaints or serious incidents. And we do this through DOSH. This is what's important for you to know. As a business owner, these are your responsibilities. You have to provide a safe and healthy workplace. You have to have a written accident prevention program. A lot of people don't know that this is a requirement, and it's required by law, and it's really important that you have it. In the event that someone gets injured, this is the first thing they're going to ask you when they call you to establish the employer-employee relationship. They're going to say, well, do you have your accident prevention program? Is it up to date? So it's important that you have it. You also have to put up the posters. There are 3 required posters that talk to the employees about their rights in an area where that's visible to your employees. You have to provide any training that might be required for your business and industry, and keep records of all job-related incidents. We can't emphasize this enough. Keep good records of anything that occurs on site, especially if, like I mentioned, if a claim happens, then you can compare with your records. And then there's also inspections. And a lot of times they know of L&I because of inspections. But what's important to know is that an inspection could be unannounced and initiated by many different reasons. One of them is someone in the public, a competitor, anyone can observe a serious hazard, just like we see on screen on this image, and they can call in the complaint anonymously. If we receive a complaint of any sort, we have to inspect. And so this is why it's really important to always practice safe work practices, because the public can call in anonymously and say, I just witnessed this situation. One of the most common ones is something that's outside that people can actually see. For example, I just drove past this house and I saw someone working on the roof and they weren't using the adequate straps to not fall off. And so then when we receive a call like that, the inspector has to go out. Also, if there's a safety complaint about any safety issue, it can come from the employee and it can come from the public. If you receive a safety complaint that way, we also have to go do an inspection. If there's a hospitalization after an injury, that calls for an inspection, or if there's a workplace fatality, that also calls for an inspection. And when the inspector comes, they're going to say, okay, can I see your written accident prevention plan? And if you don't have it, then there could be a citation. So that's why we want to be proactive. We know that this exists. We know that inspections happen. That's why we want to let you know. And our focus is be prepared, create your accident prevention plan to avoid any issues or possible citations down the road, unforeseen. But we also have consultations that are free to you that are a proactive approach. So we not only tell you have to have the accident prevention program, but we also help you in establishing that. So these consultants, they can meet with you in your work at your place of work, and they will help you set up an accident prevention plan tailored for your industry and your business specifically. And it's free. It's confidential. They don't share this information with the group that investigates. They cannot actually, by law, they cannot. And it's a good opportunity to ask any questions. Like I said, they can help you set up your accident prevention program. And they're very knowledgeable and very approachable. There's 3 different types of consultation that you can do. You can do a safety and health one, which is just an overview of the safety of the area, and they can help identify any potential hazards and help you correct them. Then there's ergonomics for those businesses where a lot of heavy lifting is involved. They will show you what are the best practices on how to lift to protect your employees, to avoid injuries, which, as we've learned, helps keep your costs down in the long run. And then there's also the risk management. And the risk management is for those businesses that now have a higher experience factor and they're trying to find ways to lower it because it's impacting their premiums and what they're paying. These consultants can take a look at your the previous rates and experience factor and find ways to help you lower that. So all 3 are great. They're free, they're confidential, and I highly recommend that you utilize the service because it's really helpful for your business and for you, and it helps save money in the long run. You can schedule them. These are available throughout the whole state. Depending on the county that you're located is the phone number that you will contact. And you can also schedule it online if you choose to on lni.wa.gov/consultations. Or you can call our office and we can get you in contact with the consultant as well. We also have a ton of information online. We do have templates for the accident prevention program. We have videos. Go to our public website and you're going to find a variety of information for different industries that's really helpful. We also have the duty to protect the public, and we do this by inspecting any electrical work in the state. Also, we inspect food trucks. We make sure that they're suitable to be used. We inspect manufactured homes, also boilers, cranes, elevators. I'm sure some of you have seen that certificate in each elevator that has an LNI sign because we're also in charge of inspecting that. So there's many other things that we inspect as an agency to ensure that the public is safe. We also give licensing to electricians and plumbers. So only LNI certified electricians or plumbers can legally perform work on someone else's property. All electrical contractors and plumbing contractors that do contract work have to be registered as a contractor. So the electrical businesses have to be registered as an electrical contractor, and the same for plumbing. So plumbing was something new. There was a change that came last fall, but all of them have to be licensed to do contract work. And then there's contractor registration. So anyone in the state that wants to do or register as a business doing construction work, they have to be registered. This is a series of requirements they have to fulfill. They have to have bond, insurance. And if anyone has a question about the process, feel free to contact our office. We're more than happy to help. and guiding you on what are the things you have to do to register as a contractor. Or you can visit a local office if that's easiest for you. But give us a call if you have any questions about how to register as a contractor. And then when COVID started, our safety and health department also had a variety of information that because we were monitoring the situation and we maintain it updated. The information is still there. It's just prevention suggestions, industry-specific guidance, and then also this is something also that the consultant can help you with if you have any questions specifically about this. So that's the requirements in a nutshell for safety and health. Is there any questions? I'm going to look at the chat really quick. So it says, where can I find the links in the material you are showing? So they will send you the slide deck, and the links are live on the slide deck, or I can contact you directly via email, and I can provide that information to you if you give me your email address, whatever works easiest.
Wonderful. I can take their emails. Just everybody just put their email so I can actually do it, give it to Andrea at the end of the webinar. Please just put your questions or your emails at the chat. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so I will move forward since I don't see anything else. Now I'm going to talk about the requirements you have to fulfill when you have employees regarding wage and hour. So first things first, state minimum wage. It's $15.74 per hour. If you have a minor worker, that's 14 or 15. It's $13.38. However, there is a regional variance. Seattle's variance is between $16.50 and $18.69 per hour. It really depends on the benefits offered, tips, and in the business size. In SeaTac, it's $19.06 in the hospitality and transportation industry. And in Tukwila, starting July of this year, if you have more than 500 employees, it's $19.06. And for employers that have between 50 and 500 employees, it's $17.06. So the regional variances have to be, those are the ones that have to be respected when it's within that region. The rest of the state sticks to the state minimum wage. When you have employees, you have to establish a regular payday. It has to be at least once a month. And if you want to do additional deductions outside of taxes, there has to be a specific agreement in writing with the employee, but it's really dependent on the situation. So if there's a situation where you're not sure about what's an allowed deduction outside of the taxes, it's a case-by-case basis. So give us a call and we can connect you with the specialist that can tell you if that's an allowed deduction. And this is a question that comes up, unfortunately, when there's employees that are no longer employed with your company, and now there's been damage or theft, and you're wanting to know if this is something that could be deducted. So things like this are not permitted unless it's the final pay period. But like I said, it's a case-by-case basis. And if you ever have a question about an allowed deduction, feel free to reach out to us and we can help you with that. There's also the requirement for overtime, and it's for most employees. They have to be paid overtime unless they meet a specific exemption from law, and that exemption is if they're considered a white collar. And a white collar employee means they're part of their executive, administrative, professional, or outside sales. There is a duty test that they have to pass to ensure that they are truly a white collar employee, but those are the ones that are exempt from overtime. And the overtime threshold for those exempt employees is that as of the first of this year, they have to earn at least $57,293. And that's going to gradually increase until 2028. Right now, we have a projection of what that will be like for 2024, and it's going to be $69,264. There's also overtime rules when it comes to dairy workers. This became effective in January of 2022. They qualify for overtime after 40 hours. And for agricultural workers, they qualify as well. And it's after 48 hours work that they qualify for overtime. And then next year, in January 2024, it's going to go back to 40. So anything worked after 40 hours will be considered overtime for agricultural workers. Every employee is entitled to a rest and meal period, and the rest period is paid. It has to be 10 minutes, at least every 4 hours. And the meal period must be paid only when and if the person is on duty or on call. But if that person is free to do as they please for 30 minutes, then it does not have to be paid. But it's only required to be paid if they have to be on call or on duty. And then here's one of the questions we receive all the time: paid sick leave, because it gets confused with the paid family and medical leave with employment security. But this is different. This is a paid sick leave through L&I. And the way it works is that for every 40 hours worked, the employee is entitled to 1 hour of paid sick leave. They start accruing from the first date of hire, but they're not able to use it until they've been working for 90 calendar days. So for example, you have an employee that started working today. At the end of the month, if they work 40 hours each week, they're going to have 4 hours accrued. And let's say that the following month they say, well, I know I have 4 hours and I need to be gone, so can I use my 4 hours? They can't, because they haven't worked with you for 90 days. So it's not until they have been working for you for 90 calendar days that they're now eligible to utilize those hours. Your responsibility as an employer is that you have to let them know how many hours they've accrued, and you have to let them know at least monthly. If they've used any hours, you have to let them know how many they used and what's their remaining balance. So you have to do this at least once a month so that they know what their hours look like or what they've accrued. If someone leaves your place of employment and they have accrued, let's say 40 hours, 50 hours, whatever it is, they are not eligible, or you don't have to pay out those hours. And this is a question we get all the time, because employers call us saying, well, someone just got terminated or someone decided to leave and now they want me to pay them their X amount of hours they have accrued. You don't have to. The law doesn't state that. It's a benefit to use while employed. And if they didn't use it, it's kind of one of those things where you use it or you lose it. So you don't have to pay that out. What you do have to do is, at the end of every calendar year, whatever hours are accrued, you only have to transfer 40. So if in 1 year your employee accrued 50 hours and they didn't use any, well, they just lost 10, because your only requirement is to transfer over 40. You can choose to transfer as many as you want, but the law only says that you have to transfer over 40. Or if someone that was working for you works for you 5 months, accrues a few amount of hours, and then they go somewhere else, but then they come back to work with you within 12 months from that time, you have to reestablish those few amount of hours they had already accrued, even though it was a year ago. So remember that if someone leaves and then comes back and it's within the year, you have to start their bank where they left off the last time they were employed with you. There's many different protected leaves. Not all are administered through L&I. We don't have time today to cover all of them, but you could contact the protected leave specialist that can help you answer any questions regarding any of the following leaves here on screen. And vacation and holiday pay, they're a benefit and they're not required by law. So as an employer, if you choose to have a vacation and holiday policy, you may. If you choose to not have one, then you may as well, because it's not required by law. And if you decide to hire a minor, even if it's your own kid, please know that you have to have a minor work permit, and you obtain this by adding it to your business license. And then depending on their age and if the kids are in school or not, it's what determines the amount of hours they can work, and they will need a school authorization and a parent authorization. So it's really important that you know that there's certain requirements you have to fulfill if you plan to employ a minor, including your own children. There's also the Equal Pay and Opportunities Act that L&I oversees, meaning that as an employer, as a business owner, you have to provide equal pay and career advancement or opportunities without regard to gender. That's really important. And as of this year, if you have more than 15 employees and you want to post a job recruitment post, you have to include and disclose the full wage salary range. That's something you have to include. So if you're going to have a job opening and you want to post it, whether it's on social media, the newspaper, wherever it might be, it has to include the wage range if you have more than 15 employees. And if your business is in janitorial, security guard, motel, or room service, there's also the isolated worker protections that the L&I requires of employers, meaning that you have to have a sexual harassment policy in place, and you need to provide your isolated worker a panic button to each employee. This is in protection of them since they spend their time working alone. And this is something that's also newer that L&I implements that's now in effect. And if you have an employee that decides to do outside employment or self-employment, you can't restrict them from doing that unless they're getting paid 2 times the minimum wage, which would be $31.48. The only reason why you could be able to restrict it would be for clear conflict of interest or for scheduling. Obviously, those are the reasons why you could restrict it. But otherwise, if they're not making 2 times the minimum wage, you can't restrict them. And non-compete agreements are only allowed if the employee is paid at least $116,000 per year. And they're valid for 18 months maximum after the employee terminates. And if you're a franchisor, you can't restrict their franchisees from recruiting each other's employees. So that's part of the prohibited employment restrictions for Washington State. We have all this information on our public website under our worker rights section. We have contact information to other state agencies, federal, and the local regional jurisdictions like the city of Seattle. We have this information available to you if you have any questions regarding the workplace rights there as well. So I'm going to finalize our time together with some resources, and then we'll have some time for some questions. First off, I want to talk about our small business guide. This guide is available on business.wa.gov. It's a comprehensive guide that mentions from start to finish what you have to do to start a business, to run it, to grow it. It has linked information. For example, when you're getting ready to hire and you need to fill out the different forms with IRS for your employees, their links are there so you can access them. It has information about local business advisors that provide services. It has a payroll calculator if you're new to payroll and you need to know how to do stuff. It has it there too. It's interactive. And it's a great resource that has a lot of information. It was created by a business consultant, which is actually my boss. And so it's a great resource available to you. You can download it as a PDF and have it. And then something I want to mention is that it is available in 6 languages, including English and Spanish. This is my team. We're a small team of 3. Celia and Andrew are in the west side of the state. I'm on the east side of the state, so our reach is statewide. Our phone number is on screen, 1-800-987-0145. It's a 1-800 number, so it's accessible from anywhere, but it's always answered by either Andrew or myself. So it's not going to be a number where you're going to call, you're going to be on hold, or you're going to be calling an operator. You're always going to get an answer. If for whatever reason one of us is out or one of us is presenting, you are able to leave a voicemail and we'll go back with you soon. And we also have a direct email inbox that you can use to get a hold of us. We have a section on the L&I public website. We called it Help for Small Businesses, where we cover all the things I mentioned today. We have links, and we also have a newsletter that's created every quarter by Andrew, and it's a good opportunity to stay up to date with any changes, with any updates. He ensures that all those things that affect small businesses are updated and included so that you stay in the know of what's coming or what's changing. We offer workshops and trainings, not just our small group, but also the rest of the agency. So if you go to lni.wa.gov/training, you're going to find a variety of training webinars, and they're distributed by date. And so you can go through there and see which one. We do offer the L&I Essentials for Business. So kind of like what I'm doing today, but at more extensive setting, because it's 90 minutes. So we go a little bit more into depth about like the different things you need to know as a new employer in the state. And then the other things I mentioned today, we have it every month in English and every 2 months in Spanish. So I welcome you all to attend. They're hosted by, the English ones are hosted by Andrew and the Spanish ones are hosted by me. And last but not least, thank you all for attending. Thank you to the Seattle Chamber for inviting us here today. It's our pleasure to be able to come to you and bring you this information because we know how hard it is to keep track of all the different things. There's so many, because there's not just L&I, there's other state agencies. And so we want to make it easier for you to do business with L&I. We want to be your friends. We want to be your resource. So if you have any questions about anything as you're moving along in your business adventure, whether you're starting, whether you're already established, or whether you're needing to grow, please reach out to us, our email or our phone number. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrea. What a wonderful webinar. I think it's so much information. So I appreciate that you are able to condense it so clearly. And we have a question. We have a question from Judith. She wants to know if she has to create an account to enter Labor and Industries website and find out all the material and the information that we were talking about.
No, so the account with L&I would only be when and if you sign up to have workers' comp. That's where you can access your reports. But to access any of the information, you don't have to have an account. It's all available to you on the public website.
Wonderful, thank you. And Andrea, one of the questions I get, of course, because being part of the Latino contingency, one of the questions that we have gotten asked before is, can an employer report a person, an employee, with an ID number, or does it have to have, the employee does it have to have a social security number?
So as far as L&I, we don't have any regulations over that. All we need to know for coverage purposes, just tell us how many hours your employee worked. We're not going to ask you the name of the employee. We're not going to ask you whether they have an ITIN or a social, because we're more focused on the safety of the person and then ensuring that the business is complying with their requirements than we are with the other things. Other state agencies might require that for reporting purposes, but as far as L&I, we don't ask for that information.
Wonderful. That's very important to know, and I'm very happy that that's the way it is. Do we have any more questions from the public today, from our participants? Knowingly that you represent many businesses today here, that you have come to bring this information back to your businesses and to hopefully to other people, also to other small businesses that may benefit from this. I'm gonna stop for a second and please ask you to come by. Tomorrow we'll be having a live event, a presential event at Edmonds at the Carlos restaurant, and all our information is within our website, or you can text us the word Latinos, and in a moment I'm going to put the number where you can get tickets and come to this event, which is, if you don't have money, you don't have to pay anything. It's you can be there. We will have also a talk on labor and industry. ESBA is going to be there too. So it's going to be a very important place to basically make personal contact, to get in contact with, and to learn more about labor and industry as we have today. If there's no more questions, I'm just going to thank very much Andrea for being here today. I remind everybody that we're going to have this webinar in Spanish coming up. And all the information, again, is at our website, seattlelatino.org, seattlelatino.org. And also you can text us, and I'm going to put really fast. I'm going to put our text number, so you folks can send us a message. It's just message the word Latinos to the phone number 206-746-7557, and I'm going to write out that, Andrea, as I'm saying it. For text Latinos to number 206 746-7557. And I'm gonna put it over here so everybody can see it. And we have information about tomorrow's event where we will have a representative of labor industry also talking about all this very important information that we need to be compliant with Washington state law. And if there's nothing more, I would like to thank Andrea for her wonderful participation today. Thank you very much, Andrea. And I will say to everyone, not hasta luego, pero hasta pronto, and see you next time in the Spanish Aprende y Avanza Labor and Industry webinar for all information regarding and specifically focus on small businesses. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
All righty. Any other questions before we leave? Anything else? Or we will just say goodbye. I remind you, you can always access this webinar, which is getting recorded. You can access it also on our website. Okay, having said that, I appreciate everyone's assistance. My name is Marcos Wanles. On behalf of Andrea Ambullos and the Department of Labor and Industry and the Seattle Latino Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce, I appreciate you being here today and have a great day.